Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rio Root podcast of the CLANNAD Bookclub podcast. I'm your host, Aspirety, and today we have Pepe.
Hi everybody. I'm Pepe. Hi.
Eto. And joining us, we also have Etheria.
どうもです。
And we also have joining us for the first time, Pi.
Hello.
I can see our listeners just dropping rapidly. So we should probably stop.
Okay, alright, okay.
But anyway, this fucking root. Oh my god! I
love this route.
I hate it, and that's why I love it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
This is my favorite route in the entirety of key character routes. I'm going to say that right now.
Really, of all of them?
Yes, out of all of the key character routes, mind you, character routes.
The song was written by Kai, and I think this is the first Kai route we've read so far. It has a typical curvature of a Nakige route, but the themes and the way it presents these relationships is very mature, in an immature sort of way. It's like a mature look at a very immature sort of dilemma, where we have the classic high school romance love triangle situation, but this is basically a look at everything that could go wrong in this sort of relationship, where all the other routes so far have been very positive. I guess Tomoya was a little bit negative, but this one really hammered in that Tomoya has made a mistake. And not just Tomoya, everyone's fucking up with this route. That's one thing Canon really liked about this route, is how everyone felt so real because of all the flaws that are coming on display here. And there's no malice or anything, it's everyone trying to do their best, but they just keep making everything hell for each other. It's fucking good writing, and it took me on an emotional roller coaster from the pits of absolute despair of just hating myself and hating Tomoya, to finally reaching a resolution where I can happily say, we've come out on top and the journey was worth it. How'd you guys experience this route?
I just want to add into what you said, Aspie. Everybody, all the three characters here are weak. They are very weak, they are very human, and none of them are completely innocent. And that is what one thing I absolutely love about this route, is that you can see how what they are doing is selfish. What Tomoya is doing, what Ryo is doing, what Kyou is doing is selfish and weak. And they're all scared, they're all human, and it genuinely made me feel like these characters were actually human-ish characters, more than any other route.
Yeah, definitely. Just a note here, Biscuito obviously couldn't make it here today.
He wasn't able to finish the route on time, unfortunately.
This is the first time we've had Etheria on the podcast for a while, and I think this is the first time we've had Pi on, period. So, welcome to the podcast,
Yep, that's
Pi.
true. Yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to be here. My name is Pi. I'm on the forums as The Rational Pi. You can tell that it's me because I always have a pi symbol next to my name. And, yeah, I really like Ryo. She's my favorite character from CLANNAD, and probably one of my favorite key characters in general. And yeah, I've just been a key fan for a really long time, so I'm glad to be on the podcast and talking about it.
It's interesting, there is quite a bit of Ryo love in this group, which is...
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Ryo Bias podcast.
Before we get more into that, I think now would be a good time to have our 30-second recap, this time presented by our scheduled guest, Etheria.
Domo domo.
Would you like to take it away, man?
Alright, so, this route revolves around the sweet and sour chicken twins. Tomoya starts off sweet and chooses short hair. His everyday life is forever changed. Shortly after being teased by the tantalizing sour sister, he realizes his meal is too sweet to finish and questions if he made the right choice. But he was off-put by her long hair. After receiving surprisingly sound life advice from Tsunohara, Tomoya awakens to his inner masochist. Kyo cuts her hair, and the two fall in love. Tomoya is forever bullied for the rest of his life. All's well that ends well.
Nice. Sweet and sour chicken. I do want to try that soy sauce katsu though. Sounds good.
Oh yeah, that sounds delicious. There's a lot of delicious food in this route.
Oh, God.
And the fact that Ryo actually ended up cooking something good in the end came as a big shock too. Like
He really did work hard for it.
I'll be the first to admit I'm a little bit of a Ryo fan, but going in, I really wanted to challenge that and think, why do I like Ryo so much? Is there any reason for that? And I came out with some answers that I wasn't expecting, but I'll get into that. So, first up, we have Ryo, who is like the shy girl with a high school crush on the protagonist. It's a pretty typical sort of thing you see in these kind of games. The reason for her crush? There isn't one. It's a fucking high school crush. What more do you want, guys?
Yep.
Not every crush has to be a fucking psychological, deep and meaningful experience. I mean...
Thank you, Aspie.
Maybe these people haven't had high school crushes before, but I know I've fallen in love with people for no fucking reason. It happens.
Yeah, no, like, I feel like this route really resonates with a lot of people simply because of that fact. Like, it really tugs at your heartstrings in a way that you don't expect.
Yeah, I was trying to think, why do I like Ryo so much? And so she's obviously a very simple archetype. She doesn't have a lot of depth from the beginning. She's just kind of, you know, her personality revolves around this whole fortune-telling thing. And that's Tomoya's perspective too. We don't know anything about Ryo, so like we have no reason to want to go out with her. And he does decide to go out with her if you want to go down this route, which did feel a little bit out of character to me because, yeah, it's obvious that Tomoya has no reason to go out with her, but he decides that, you know, maybe I'll find something to like in her if I start going out with her, which I guess is a pretty natural train of thought, but everything that comes after that does lead me to the belief that this relationship felt wrong. Like it wasn't something that wasn't meant to happen. It was all kind of like a fantasy. It's very strange like that.
Yep.
But
I can totally agree with you, Aspie.
In defense of Ryo, I found myself getting a little bit more invested in her character when we moved on because they do have... It's not to say that they don't have chemistry, because they do, because Tomoya has said multiple times that he did care about Ryo, and he was perfectly happy to spend his life with her. The only issue is that there came a nagging thought in his mind, if you choose to do that old kissing scene, that maybe I actually like Kyou more. And that's kind of the whole reason for the conflict of this route, is because you made that decision and you had that realization. If you don't have that, then you get the Ryo ending, which is just... It's very nothing, which is kind of sad in its own right. It's like, okay, I still have no reason to like Ryo, right? Because we still haven't had any development.
Well...
It's just, she's kind of an empty slate of a character. And so I'm like, okay, why do I like Ryo? Is it just because she's cute? I was kind of picking at straws a bit. And at the end, though, things change because Ryo develops as a character. We get all these scenes where she's working hard, she's improving her cooking, she's becoming more assertive, all because she wants to keep Tomoya, which is it's like a very bad sort of twisted motivation because it kind of becomes this competition between her and Kyou, and it's like it reaches the point where I'm going to become my sister if you'll stay with me, which is very like desperate and clingy and very sad. But she shows growth, and you can tell that this kind of demonstrates Ryo's inner strength, which is something that attracted me towards her a bit more. But what really sort of sold me on the reason I like this character is the scene at the very end, the Ryo epilogue, where you actually see Ryo's title card, you know, come up on the the window.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the scene where I felt like, okay, this is actually a really cool character, because even after all that, she's able to smile and accept Tomoya's feelings for Kyou and Kyou's feelings for Tomoya and pull herself out of the equation, because she was really the only one that was in a position to make a move to make everyone happy. And she made that sacrifice, but she was still able to smile about it and say, you know, I appreciated these times I had with you, and I can move on. And just the whole, I won't let you say sorry because, you know, these times are valuable to me. That was so good, and that really sold me on this character. There's more to this character than just being a plot device, and I'm so glad because I was so worried.
And just being a stuttering, shy girl.
Yeah, exactly. I was so worried that I liked
really
her.
Enjoyed that.
I was so worried that my interest in her was completely shallow and meaningless, but it turns out there is something there, and was a reason I ended up liking her. And
maybe that's kind of the point. You're a lot like Tomoya in that respect, if you think about it.
I am, aren't I? You know, but that if I was more like Tomoya, I'd be like, oh shit, like I ended up with the wrong girl.
Yeah.
Because that's a point
You'd be
too.
totally after Kyou.
I felt a little bit disconnected from Tomoya in this route because I don't like Kyo. It's not just I like Ryo more. I just think Kyo's a bad character. I think she's a fucking self-entitled bitch that's always trying to get her own way. It's just...
Amen! Well, she isn't always trying to get her own way. She does a lot of self-sacrifice. I guess want to clarify some stuff that you said, Aspie. Like you were saying that he realizes he has feelings for Kyou because he does that whole practice kissing with her. Actually, even if you don't practice kissing with her, you still end up on the same thing. You just don't get the good ending.
You really need to dedicate to Ryo to not have that realization.
Really, the only reason why he doesn't realize that he has feelings for Kyou is when there is no rumor about them being together, and she doesn't try to confess to Sunohara. By the way, that was an extremely powerful scene. The way Sunohara reacted to her confession was absolutely great.
Sunohara, the MVP,
is such a bro.
I think it is that point where Tomoya realizes that he has feelings for Kyou, because when he watches Kyou confessing to Sunohara, it pains his heart, and that's when he realizes that, shit.
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah, but
and also adding into the damn it, I lost it. Adding in they are thinking, Sunohara is thinking that Kyou actually has feelings for Tomoya. Damn it.
That could be a really
Tomoya.
interesting scene.
Yeah.
I would read that arc, that's for sure.
I'm in.
Anyway, I think that additional possibility of Kyou having feeling for Tomoya has him thinking more about it. And but you did mention about how Ryo grows as a character, and while it was very impressive, I thought it as extremely sad because she says that the reason why she's being assertive and the reason why she's getting better at cooking is because she knows that Tomoya has feelings for Kyou, and she's trying to become Kyou. It's a desperate cry from Ryo.
I already
to
said
Tomoya,
that, Pepe.
saying
I already addressed that.
I know, but I just want to put more emphasis, okay, because it was very powerful.
So, kind of tagging along into the whole Ryo becoming a different person thing, when you choose the nothing but the Ryo options, she kind of remains that timid girl. She never really breaks out of her shell. She remains that kind of timid girl. It's just that Tomoya walks into that shell and she just gets comfortable with him being there, which makes it so that there's really no growth between these characters, and that's why I think that he doesn't receive the light orb, because nothing has really happened. There's no growth, and there's really nothing to be happy about.
I really like I'm in the position where I really like Ryo as a character, but I can happily admit that they're probably not made for each other. Like, in terms of all the other characters, which, like, the relationship adds something to Tomoya's, like, character and development, Ryo adds nothing. It's just stagnation there.
Well, you see, we
kind
talked
of one
about
of my
this.
themes that struck a chord with me throughout the whole Kyou route is distrust, mainly distrust in Ryo with her relationship with Tomoya, because once she realizes that, hey, he's not, completely mine maybe, and he might turn to the other side, she becomes this stronger character, and she breaks out of her shell, and he does everything in her power to be like, I will become the person this guy wants.
Yeah.
That was so... that's why I wanted to put emphasis, because it just eats at your heart right there when she says that.
It's admirable as it is twisted,
Yeah, I was going to say, is that really a sign of growth or something else? Because, I mean, if you kind of take her shyness and some of those things as being core to her personality, like, that is who she is. And instead of seeing it as like, oh, she's growing and becoming a stronger character in order to keep Tomoya, is it possible that she's just rejecting herself? Like, instead of looking at it as being a good thing, you could look at it as being a very tragic thing, because there's nothing wrong with being a shy person. There's nothing wrong with being sort of an introverted person in general. And I don't know, it tugs at my heartstrings to watch that for a different reason, because it's not that she's, oh yeah, she's gotten so much better and she's become more like Yo. It's like, oh no, like she's really turned against herself. And
Tomoya says something about in the VN. I wrote this down because it was also important. He said, "I am making a girl deny her own existence."
Yeah.
And that also eats up at Tomoya's guilt so much.
Yeah.
And
like,
I think one thing that I don't know if people noticed it, but like people might have been complaining like how Ryo suddenly takes a 360-degree turn, and how it's like it's out of character for her to suddenly start acting so bold. And the thing is, even Tomoya feels the same way. It's a bit discreet, but even Tomoya feels like he feels super awkward once she starts being bold, and once her cooking starts getting better, because he realizes that, hey, that's not the Ryo that I spent time with for the past few days. This is a different person.
Yeah, he straight up says that. He's like, "What's wrong with you today? You're not you. You're like a different person."
And cue the scene where he tries to make her embarrassed by saying, "Let's go to like a love hotel."
That is
sure,
when
let's go.
Guilt stabs you. Because you know he's just joking, but the way Ryo reacts to it is so serious, and you realize, oh my god, he's dug himself into a hole too deep.
Well, and I mean, that's another sort of realistic moment as well. That happens a lot in real relationships, where it starts to go downhill and then people double down. The best way to respond to a relationship collapsing is sometimes to try to go to the next level, and that's not the right way to handle it. And that's seems to be like what Ryo was hoping for at that moment.
It's once again, it is another desperate cry from her to Tomoya, telling him to please love me.
It's so important here that Ryo eventually realizes her mistake, and that she probably doesn't know what she wants, really. Like, she's just chasing after an ideal of a relationship with this guy she has a crush on. But does that really mean that she loves who Tomoya is? Like, I don't know, like... It feels like this relationship is just doomed to failure.
I feel like she noticed that Kyou was in love with Tomoya. And when she realized that, she kind of started looking at herself, and she was like, "Oh, that's not bad. Not bad at all. Maybe I want to swim in on some of that."
Damn it, Jared!
I think the way she falls for Tomoya is a bit more innocent than that. Like, she probably does notice Tomoya because of Kyou. She's like, oh, why is my sister invested in this guy? And once Ryo looks at Tomoya, she starts to realize that, oh, he's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and that happens.
I think I kind of like him.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, it's not her crush isn't a thing like oh, I want who my sister wants, I don't want to lose to her. But later on it does become like that. But her crush starts once.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Actually, I wanted to segue into how you were saying, like, she realizes that her sister has feelings. Like, when does she realize that this relationship might actually be the wrong thing? And I think the point where that happens is, when Tomoya comes late one time and he sees Ryo and Kyou talking in the schoolyard, they're all happy and they're waving at him. They definitely talked about something in their relationship, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what is it they talked about?
I have a feeling that if anything in that conversation led to the change in how they treat each other and how they treated Tomoya, I think that it all would have come out in subtext, because that was definitely an arc where nobody was saying what they felt, and I think that it might have been that Ryo and Kyou were talking, and then Ryo picked up on what was happening, just from her intuition, and then she could say, okay, well, now I'm going to, really make a go at this. And And maybe Kyo was kind of aware of this sort of new resolve in Ryo. But it is also possible that they actually legitimately like made a wager with each other almost, where Ryo said, I'm going to try to get him back, and I'm going to try to keep him, and you just stay out of the way, and if things don't work out, then you can have him. Maybe that's
interesting. That would be an interesting...
That does make a lot of sense. I think it's also because Kyo doesn't want to let... Like, she doesn't want her sister to let go of her boyfriend because they're together. And that also gives a reason as to why she cut her hair. Mm-hmm. Like, I have two reasons as to why she cut her hair. The number one reason is she was trying to give Ryo the final chance. Like, if she appears in front of Tomoya with the short hair, and Tomoya decides to back out and decides to say, okay, I'll stay with you, Ryo. I'll stay with Ryo, even though he's talking to Kyo, then she'd realize that she can give up, you know?
Yeah.
And the second reason is because Kyo is, I'll say it, she's a coward. She's a coward in admitting her own feelings. Mm-hmm. She needs that loss of hair. She needs to pretend to be Ryo to be able to stand there in front of Tomoya and listen to his emotions. Because if she was there as Kyo, either Tomoya wouldn't be able to tell it straight to her face, or Kyo wouldn't be able to accept it because she likes to deny her own feelings a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
a big theme I found with this route is that it's about consequences, specifically the consequences of not saying what you want to say, and the consequences of having to say what needs to be said.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Sunohara knows exactly what needs to be said, and that's what's so cool about him.
Hell yeah!
There's one point where he says, like, don't you dare think about just ignoring the both of them, because that will hurt both of them. And that's exactly what happens in the bad end. Damn, Sunohara. Damn, son. And I can imagine, like, if Kyo didn't cut her hair and Tomoya broke up with Ryo, I don't think he would have the courage to face Kyo and tell her, hey, I'm in love with you. Because at the end, he was still afraid. Like, would Kyo really accept my feelings after I broke her sister's heart? That's the biggest dilemma that Tomoya has at the end of the route.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think that short-haired Kyo pretending to be Ryo was absolutely necessary. It was an amazing scene. The CG was lovely. The colors in the background, the dialogue.
That one scene, the fortune telling, where Ryo has to
oh yeah.
You know, basically the fortune telling reveals everything that's wrong with this situation, and Ryo, with an honest, you know, with a stern expression, she gives her honest impression of the fortune telling, and at the very end is, I'm sure it'll work out. Just like, you know, one final little. I'm not going to give up just yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like she's sort of coming to terms with reality at that point. Otherwise, she would just lied about the fortune, I feel.
Yeah.
It could have been very easy for her to lie about that, but she didn't. And I feel like that says so much about Ryo's character that isn't outwardly stated, is that she isn't an ignorant, you know-nothing. She is vividly aware of the complications that are facing her and her relationships with both Kyo and Tomoya, but that she's going to keep fighting on regardless, despite those odds.
Gambaru yo watashi.
I just really like the fortune-telling aspect of this arc in general, because it gives you something that you don't see a lot in stories these days, which is a really strong foreshadowing. And that's something that you rarely see when you don't have magic involved in the world. You know, you usually kind of get maybe hints about things that are going to happen, but you don't get outright told, like, oh, this is going to happen, or like, you know, this is going to happen. And the fortune telling allows you to put that in a way that feels natural. And I just love foreshadowing in reading, because when you foreshadow something, then the audience can start looking for the clues, and they can like start seeing things and putting things together, and you can, you know, say, oh man, like, I know this is going to happen, you know, I know this relationship is going to fall apart or something like that. And then you start putting the pieces together, and it feels really good when it all comes together. And so I think that that scene was interesting because it was the last real fortune-telling moment, and it was after we as an audience had gotten used to the idea that fortune-telling actually works in this world, and so we really were prepared to take it seriously.
Yeah, and the whole music is really serious and everything. It's just, that was a great scene.
Ryo's fortune telling isn't always 100% accurate, but there's always some truth to it. Always.
Yes, exactly. And
not like that stupid fortune telling machine. Your magic items are umbrellas and chocolates.
Yeah, that never came around. But great to hear some love for foreshadowing, because it definitely does get a bad rap these days, but I still feel like it has value.
Yeah.
Just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks that maybe the biggest overall theme of this entire route is the fear of being rejected. You know, Kyou tries to get Ryo together with Tomoya because she's afraid of being rejected by him, and knows that, you know, if Ryo and him together, she can be around him just whenever she wants, even if she's not actually with him. And Ryo starts becoming more like Kyou because she's afraid of being rejected by Tomoya and him going over to Ryo instead. And Tomoya hurts both of them in, like, you know, the bad end, and almost does it, you know, like, actually even in the good end, because he's afraid that his love for Kyou will be rejected even after he breaks up with Ryo.
Yep. That brings me to a point that I wanted to, just a short discussion maybe. Like, what do you think would have happened if Kyou gained the courage to confess to Tomoya? Like, she's had a long crush. She's had a crush on Tomoya for a long time. So, like, how do you think Tomoya would react if she suddenly confessed? I can imagine his face being like, "Are you serious?"
But I think he would have also accepted. Like, there were other hints even in other routes, like Yukine, whenever he's like, oh, who would I want to be locked in a room with? He immediately thinks of Kyou, and he's like, oh, that wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah. It's probably the closest girl in his life. And so if he can like accept Ryo's feelings, then he can definitely accept Kyou's.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make, Yethera, because I was certainly not sure how he would react. Like, would he be confused? Would he accept? Would he do the same thing that he did with Ryo? I guess it might have worked out a lot better, but then again, we wouldn't have much of a route if she did.
I feel like he would originally just kind of play it off as a joke, but then realize, oh, she's serious, and kind of really think about it, and they would end up together eventually.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a letter of challenge.
After her throwing... Yeah! After she threw 1 or 2 dictionaries at him, he'd realize that she's serious.
You were going to say something, Pa?
Yeah, so I think we've talked a lot about the route in terms of characters and kind of how we think things turned out. But I'm curious about how people felt while they were reading this chapter, because I felt like this chapter, at least for me, resonated really strongly emotionally. I think I had a lot of feels, but not necessarily feels. So I'm just curious, like, what was your mood going into this arc, and how did you really feel about it?
This route was visceral as fuck. Like, you saw me write on the forum, I wrote, fuck this route. It's just the first thing I said. It was just like, not because it's terrible, but because, oh my god, I felt so awkward and my stomach was turning because I had to sit through this horrible decision. Yeah, it was...
That's exactly how Tomoya felt. And it's amazing how the writing was able to make you feel the same way he did.
It felt like I was reading Air or Rewrite. Just that overwhelming despair and hopelessness, and then the light of the tunnel was so satisfying. Like, it didn't feel cheap at all. Just the realization that it wasn't all Tomoya's problem to deal with, you know, that the other girls were in it too, and that Ryo had to make the decision to save everyone from this overwhelming defeat. Anyway, but back to, like, emotions. What do you think, Jared?
Like, I was crying within, like, the first few minutes. Like, I don't even know why. It just... I guess the repercussions of watching the anime just kind of hit me, and I was like, I know what's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna like it. And then I did like it, and then I, like, just...
I like
that's
playing
my
through it. I was
emotion.
just... Yeah. Playing through it, I got lots of school days vibes. I'm just like... It's like, I can see this ending in a yandere sort of situation.
But yeah, going on how I felt, like I felt extremely guilty, and that's also how Tomoya felt, extremely guilty for going out with Ryo and yet still having feelings for Kyou and not being able to say like actually what you're feeling, because you might think that you're gonna break the other person's heart, or you might think that you're gonna lose that person. And I think that's a very real thing in terms of relationships, and it has happened to me with my relationship. Like, of course, it's not as big as like having feelings for someone else. That's dangerous. But anyway, like having this negative emotion towards your partner and being afraid to say it because you don't want to hurt them, or you just don't want to lose them, and it's very hard to get that courage to say it, you know. And I can totally relate to Tomoya in trying to, you know, actually become more courageous and become more honest. And
I guess I'm a bit of a judgmental asshole, because I less than feeling guilty, I was more angry at Tomoya.
Okay.
It's like, damn it,
I
man!
think that...
Come on, pull yourself together.
Yeah, I think that this is like the litmus test for whether you like read books and put yourself in the position of the main character, or whether you kind of stand off and see the protagonist as being another character.
Yes, I had that experience.
Because, I mean, for me, I also sort of put myself in that character. I project myself into Tomoya, and I felt guilty as well, especially the first time I read it, because I had just recently come out of a relationship like that. And I remember the first time that I read it, just like, I don't usually cry when reading stuff, but this definitely like hit me hard. And the second time going through it, it's not as, you know, I'm in a different place in my life, and I don't think I had those same sorts of feelings. But I did still put myself in Tomoya's shoes more than I saw him as another character, and I think that this might determine like how some people feel about the arc in general. I saw a lot of negative opinions about it in the book club on the forums, with people who were just really angry at Tomoya and just were convinced like everybody in this arc is being stupid and unrealistic, and somebody needs to slap each one of them in, you know, succession to get them, you know, on the right track. And
that's what it means to be human, yo.
Is it stupid and unrealistic, or stupid and realistic? That's something that came up on the forum a bit. Just like how Ken was like, everyone is fucking stupid, and I love it.
Yeah, this...
But I think the key point here is that you're supposed to hate Tomoya. Either you hate him from a third party, or you're in his shoes and you hate yourself. Because Tomoya sure hates himself in this route.
I actually sympathize quite a bit with Tomoya in this route, actually, because I've been forced into several positions where a friend has come to me with relationship advice, or, you know, two friends are fighting in front of me, or, you know, friend A doesn't like friend B, and I've been in a position where one word from me will make or break these people's relationships, and it's a really hard time.
So I had one other thing that I wanted to bring up is comparing this route to if it was a book instead of a visual novel. How do you guys feel about the impact that the choices that you got to make, what did you feel about those?
That's a very interesting topic. I'll let someone else respond to this one.
For me personally, I feel like choices, even if they are meaningless, always have more of an impact, because you yourself, even whenever you know, like, oh, you know, I can just reload and do whatever, it's like, I chose this path, this is my decision, I was not led here.
As for me, I always like looking at the choices and how they affect the story. Like, if you remember from my other discussions in the other podcast, I always like to kind of point it out. I was a bit disappointed that the choice in getting the Ryo's ending, like, the choices kind of have no bearing, because the reason why you get Ryo ending is that the rumor shifts from Kyou to Ryo, even though you do exactly the same thing. But the choice for getting the bad ending, like simply not choosing everything that is aligned towards Kyou, you get the bad ending where you push Ryo away. It's like it definitely does strengthen Tomoya's. It strengthens the idea of Tomoya's resolve being weak. So like the choices that you make towards the Kyou ending kind of add into Tomoya's resolve to finish this, to solve this problem. And yeah, so that's one thing I liked about the choices. Like it lets you know how strong, how much resolve needs to be put in. And I also have another thing which I think we can segue into, like
no, we're not segueing from this topic yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay.
No, this is big.
All right. All right. So I'll save.
Pi is talking less about what the roots roots and choices accomplish, and more what the existence of choices, what that entails as an experience of reading this visual novel, and how that shapes your emotional experience. And I feel like the absence of choices definitely puts more onus on the player to feel guilt and put himself into Mo's shoes and feel guilty for these choices, because this is what you're reaping what you sow, you know.
This is what you wanted. And I get this
feeling reading this route. Yeah, this is what you asked for, even if it isn't. But it definitely places more burden on your own shoulders as the reader than you would if you were just reading a book. And I keep saying, this route feels like something which should never have happened. It was all a mistake. He shouldn't have gone out with Ryo, and I don't know.
I think the most important and the most jarring choice that you had to make is actually accepting Ryo as your girlfriend. I think that is the most out of character choice that you had been given. Because, let's face it, if knowing the way we know Tomoya, and I guess is kind of enforcing our knowledge on him, he probably wouldn't have accepted that. And if you do choose to not accept her feelings, like when Kyou confronts you, you say like, oh, if we just go out and I break up with her in the long run, that would hurt her even more. And I can see that being a very realistic thing that Tomoya would did, as opposed to actually going out with her.
Yeah, there are like 2 or 3 choices that you can make before the confession even happens that immediately just lead you to the bad end.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So in writing, sometimes they say that the character always has the same choice to make. They always have to make the choice between what's easy and what's right. And that, I think, gets reinforced in these sorts of novels in kind of an interesting way, because in visual novels, there is a tendency, choosing the easy choice is actually more difficult in a visual novel in a general sense, because as the player, we don't have to deal with the repercussions of the things that we choose. It's very easy to make the hard choice as a player because you're an outside party. And what I think they do a really good job of in this arc is that the easy choices, the ones that you would want to make as a player, are the ones that continue you down the route of Ryo. They're the ones that make you want to do the right thing, to make the right choices, to pick the right, pendant and all of that sort of thing. You want to make the choices that seem correct. And this novel actually forces you to make what you know are the wrong choices in order to get the best ending. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is just an amazing way of reinforcing that idea of you have to make the right choice instead of the easy choice.
It reminds me of Minagi's route in Air, like where if you choose the usual dating sim choices, you get the bad end.
Yeah.
If you guys remember that from Air. But hey, about if we're done with this topic, about Ryo's ending, like what did you guys think about Ryo's ending? Like a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's a bad end because it doesn't have a light orb," or
Fuck you.
It's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to point this out,
It's not a bad ending, but it's not a very well written ending. But going back to what Pi said, this is the ending that it leads you down if you make the correct choice. The doing the right thing.
I think it's the easy choice, right? Or the easy choice with Ryo's relationship. Yeah.
At any rate, this is definitely the easy choice here, and because it's so easy and you get your credit sequence, you feel like, oh, that's it? And you want more, obviously. So you go after the Kyou route because you have to make the bad choices, the tough choices to get there, the choices you don't want to make. And that's very clever writing. It means Ryo's route serves an important purpose. But just stepping away from all of that, is the Ryo route a bad ending?
I don't think
I
so,
will insist
personally.
I'll insist no, it isn't. Because you can see that Tomoya and Ryo do find a happiness together. Like I said, it's not that there was zero chemistry between them, it's just that Kyou got in the way. The fact that, Tomoya says this over and over again, like, I enjoyed my time with you, and I actually got something out of this relationship. It's not a bad relationship. I keep saying how, he was meant to be with Kyou because that makes more sense, but that doesn't mean he can't be with Ryo like it's impossible. It's definitely possible, and I think this route proves that. I mean, they could have just not left it in at all, and just make you go through Kyou. But no, they do give you the option of going through Ryo, and it's a perfectly valid option.
I think the Ryo route is simply that Tomoya just kind of never realizes his feelings for Kyou, and that's what leads him to be like, yeah, this is fine. This is how I want to be. Mm-hmm. And halfway
Kyou
through...
asks him before the ending.
Sorry, hold on a second. Like, halfway through the Kyou route, Tomoya, I don't remember the specific thing, but it implied that he does in fact love Ryo. He is serious about her. He's just more serious about Kyou.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of degrees here. And that a person will more naturally be inclined to want to seek out the persons they love more. That's how humans are. We want the best. We want the best for ourselves. So
it is very selfish indeed, but that's how humans are.
Exactly. Yeah. And I know what your response is going to be to this. I don't know, Pepe or anyone else listening.
Yes.
But Aspie, they didn't get a light orb in this ending, so they're not really happy.
Oh god. Okay, I want to comment on that. Can I comment on that?
You go first.
Okay. So so firstly about the Ryo ending, I see it as much of an ending as Misai's ending, where you do get a credit sequence, but you don't get a light orb, Mm-hmm. And I was saying before I reread this route, I was saying that, and I hate myself for saying this, that, it's probably that you don't get a light orb because the ending up with Ryo doesn't really mean true happiness. But after reading that, I really can't say that, because I know that Tomoya genuinely liked being with Ryo. He liked the feeling of being needed by someone, and I can see them being happy there. Mm-hmm. So I was forced to change my opinion of why they don't get the light orb in the end,
What's the opinion reached, Pepe?
I have two possible interpretations. The first is that the light orbs might be tied into the person somehow. Like there might be these special people who, when they gain happiness, Tomoya will get their light orbs, and that might explain why if you go with Ryo, you don't get a light orb, because Ryo is one of those people who doesn't have a light orb attached to her, whereas Kyou is one of those people. And if you don't get Kyou's happiness, you don't get her quote-unquote light orb, right?
Lacks evidence, but the blue truth is effective. Continue.
The blue truth is okay. The second interpretation I have is that the happiness is not just connected to one person. Like, there are so many factors in order to gain happiness. If you go with Ryo, if you go down her ending, you know that deep down inside, Kyou will be crying. She will not be happy. And how can a light orb, which comes out when something happy happens, when something of happiness happens, how can a light orb come out when it knows that Kyou is not happy, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in the ending, in the Kyou ending, you might think that, maybe Ryo is unhappy, but you see that she gets over it. She knows that that's what should be done. And even by the end, Kyou does say that Ryo finds a boyfriend. And it's only after that epilogue that we do get the light orb. After both Kyou and Ryo have been able to find their own happiness. And also going back into Misai's route where they didn't get the light orb, I think the person who didn't achieve happiness in Misai's ending was actually Shima. And Shima only gained that happiness once Misai realizes that, this is the guy that I made a promise with, and I fulfilled my promise to go to the school festival. So I think that's a more valid interpretation.
So it's more something along the lines of, I am from the perspective of this omniscient God. I can see all the possible timelines, and I can see which timelines lead to the most happiness for the most people, and those timelines equate to light orbs. Is that basically what you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that the omniscient being can see which timeline has the most happiness.
I'm just trying to add perspective here to
but
get my point
it's
across.
Definitely the light orb can sense when it's true happiness, like when all the people involved are happy.
Now, have we discussed the idea that Coryphean gave on the forums?
I was just about to
closure?
mention that. You go on, Pa. You take it.
Well, I thought that this idea was very convincing, but the idea is that the light orbs don't represent happiness per se, but just a sense of closure. If you look at some of the other routes, it's, the situation, if it's left unresolved, doesn't result in an orb. And I can see the same sort of thing happening with Ryo. It's like there's clearly something that's unsaid, something that's unresolved, and that situation hasn't reached closure. And, you have to, imagine what's going to happen in the future if you go down the Ryo route. Like, this powder keg that's kind of, building pressure or whatever is going to explode at some point with Kyou's feelings and all of that stuff. So there's no closure there. And if you go down the Kyou route, on the other hand, everything comes to a head, but at the end of the day, nobody is left with questions. Nobody has any questions about how anybody else feels. Nobody has any questions about, what the future is going to be like. It's just, we know now, and everything has been closed, all nice and tidy with a little bow. And that to me represents what the light orb gives you.
Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting theory, and it's definitely something I'll be considering as we read the future routes. I just want to say...
I already responded on the forum to that, by the way. Anyway.
If it does end up true that the light orbs represent true happiness, quote-unquote, then fuck that, that's a terrible writing device, because how can a fucking light orb decide if someone's happy or not? That's such an abstract thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of the same vein of what Pi and Coryphean was saying on his point, where it seems like it's directly said that they're tied to happiness, but the criteria for obtaining one seems a bit vague. I was kind of the idea that maybe it's from, you've been through a turbulent, troubled time, and you came out as happy as you could possibly be from being through that.
So light at the end of the tunnel, sort of a release sort of
it's
thing.
Like a reward.
It's not just about being happy, it's about being happy after
the resolution of conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely hard to say that you're happy about something when something isn't resolved. That's right.
I mean, it's just like, you can't say that anything was resolved with the Ryo ending. It just kind of happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. I like all these interpretations, all this theory crap.
Yeah, it's kind of like you watch a good drama anime, and you're like, that was a good resolution. There was conflict, and I'm satisfied with that. As opposed to watching a slice of life where there's kind of no conflict, and you just kind of sit there and you're like, yeah, I mean...
Everyone's happy.
I'm full, but I could have eaten more.
Yeah, it's only after you overcome, hardship that the fruit of resolving that conflict can really ripen. And I guess that's what they're getting at with this true happiness thing, if that's really a thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like that.
What did you guys think about Kyou? We gave our opinions about Ryo, but we didn't talk about...
Yeah, we didn't get
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Bias Podcast.
Welcome to the Real Podcast, where we do not talk about Kyou.
I wish Biz was here, damn it.
Yeah, oh well.
Well, let's just end the Ryo podcast and start the Kyou podcast now.
That's the second podcast of the night.
I feel so bad.
In the last 5 minutes.
So what did you guys think about Kyou?
I actually really like her character. I think she's very interesting. I think she's a more natural version of the tsundere archetype than I've usually seen. Because in a lot of tsundere sort of characters, you get the feeling that the tsun is a mask that they use to kind of protect themselves. And it's, like, oh, well, here's this character who acts all tough, but deep down inside, like, they're really soft. But I think with Kyou, it really represents, two different parts of her personality that are both equally hers. She's kind of this, brash and boisterous, mischievous character. And she has that sort of mean streak to her, but it's not a mean-hearted streak, and it's not a mask. That's really who she is. That's how she has fun. That's how she, communicates with other people. That's, when we see her interacting with Tomoya, the reason why that feels so natural is because that is a place in their personality where they really meet, where they can really kind of share something. And the dairy part is just part of her being human. She is vulnerable. She, she does have fears and that sort of, that sort of humanity to her. Mm-hmm. So I think that, to me, she's my favorite tsundere that I've ever read a story about. For that reason.
Let's face it, when she gets in a relationship with Tomoya, she does become pretty dere.
Yeah, and as such, Tomoya was bullied for the rest of his life.
Yeah, but she doesn't sacrifice that, brash side to her personality.
Thug dere.
It's still there.
Yeah. What I thought about Kyou was that after reading this route, I really respect her because she's like everyone's big sister, kind of. Because your big sister, she will protect you, but she also won't hesitate to fucking beat you up if you're being stupid.
Wasn't it Ryo's fortune telling, which is like a knight, or was it? Yeah, a knight will come and
when she bumps into Tomoya, it's like you will have an interaction with a gentle girl, something like that. I forgot.
It's like a big impact.
Yeah, a big impact. But yeah, and I still don't like the fact that she doesn't care much for the well-being of others when she does what she does. And I talked about this with Biz a few days ago, and he was saying it's because of all the anime where it's because of anime humor where she throws dictionaries and runs over people with motorcycles where that wouldn't happen in the real life. There is definitely a point to it, but she still kind of doesn't care about the well-being. So to me, I really want to like Kyou. It's just there are some parts of her personality which she really should fix before I can say that I like her.
I'm in the same boat.
And I also made a tweet about this. Before I reread CLANNAD, I would consider Ryo as my favorite female character. And I didn't really have a reason for that. And I now remember that my reason for that is because I want to like Kyou, just that I don't like her. So I'll like Ryo instead.
What the hell,
of course,
man?
now,
I'm like...
You're even worse
it's stupid,
Tomoya.
Isn't it? It's stupid, isn't it?
I'm like a reverse Tomoya, because I love both Kyou and Ryo. I just love Ryo more.
But right now, if you ask me, I will not say that Ryo is my favorite female character anymore. I still like Ryo as a character because of the reasons Aspie said. And as for the rest of Kyou, can I just say that I hate her voice acting? I don't know if I'm alone with this, but I thought that even back in Common, her voice acting wasn't that good. And especially the scene with the rain where Tomoya is hugging her. The dialogue says that her voice becomes rough, but nope, her voice acting doesn't get any rougher. And when she starts crying, that's the time her voice is supposed to tremble. Her voice doesn't tremble at all. So it kind of gave me a disconnect the way the voice acting was done. Sad.
Oh, no, I didn't really feel it.
During Common, there was a few parts where I was like, she could be giving it a bit more, but I just kind of got used to it and forgot about it.
It's not a point I usually think about, I guess. So
no, yeah. Anyway,
yeah, I read too fast to listen to the.
I wanted to rant, but yeah.
If you agree with Pepe, let us know in the comments.
in summary, I like both Ryo and Kyou. Probably right now, I like them equally as characters because they are both very good characters and they're both likable characters. Yeah.
But Pepe, short hair or long hair?
Yes. Oh my god. I am hair length agnostic. It's the inside that matters.
Well, you still have to you're still gonna have a preference.
But it's for most of my life I would have preferred long hair, but recently I've been starting to admire I've been starting to admire the really good, well done short hair. So I don't know.
I'm a devout short hair follower.
The shorties for life.
Shorties for life.
Shorties for life. High five.
Welcome back to the Ryo podcast.
I think given that my girlfriend has hair that goes down past her waist, I think I have to, go with the long hair crew.
All right. Oh, can I answer medium length? Like shoulder length hair.
I think that it's like the Switzerland defense at that point. It's
I am neutral.
Nobody likes somebody who's neutral. I think you've made a lot of enemies today, Pepe.
I'm sorry, long hair fans and short hair fans.
Now look, Kyou already taught us a lesson with this. She cut her hair. You can date a long-haired girl and then just be like, hey babe, I need to cut your hair. That's how I get it on.
Well, that's what she did. And I actually liked short-haired Kyou a lot. I thought she looked very cute.
Okay. Alright then, team short hair.
Team short hair.
Team short hair.
With all that said, thanks for joining us, guys. Eotheria and Pi especially, thank you for joining us. Eotheria was our scheduled guest, but Pi came in at last minute to fill in for Biscuit Dough, so I'm especially grateful to him for taking on that, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Pachi.
Thanks for having me,
welcome
guys.
back, Eotheria. It's been a while.
Hey, Okari, tadaima, domo domo.
I think Pi's route is going to be May, so you're still coming up next as an official guest, aren't you?
I believe so. Isn't May's route in 2 weeks or something like that? But it's pretty soon.
It's coming up.
Yes, 2 weeks from now.
Special thanks to forum members Zach M, Fuzzlekins, October Pumpkin, who has actually just caught up. Like, she just joined the forum a week ago, and she has already read all of the routes and kept up with the book club, and finally reached the point where we're at now. So, awesome job, October Pumpkin. I even gave you the title Speed Reader just to commemorate your achievement, because that was awesome. And we also have, of course, Canon, with his very colourful writing.
Yes.
Nekam, Carafine, who we mentioned earlier, and we have Yerian. Pepe posted a bit on the forum too. Kuketsuki Miyu,
Yeah.
the Rational Pie, who we have here once again, and Naoki Saten. Quality over quantity this time, guys. There's like 20 new posts, but they were all completely loaded with lots of awesome stuff. So it was a good read. I read through it on the train today, just before the podcast, and it was awesome. I really wish I could get more involved in these discussions. But I guess I'm on the podcast, so that at least makes up for a little bit, right? Next week, we are going into the Cape route, which I am very excited about, because this is VN exclusive content, people. It wasn't in the anime at all. They completely let out his character, so if this is your first...
No Cape for you casuals.
If this is your first time reading CLANNAD, this is going to be an entirely new experience, and I haven't read this route myself, so I don't know what's coming. I have a vague idea, but still.
Me either.
I am very excited to see what's coming.
I just want to say, I finished it all of last night, and it only took me like 2 to 3 hours, so it's super short. It's also very nice and sweet.
I can catch up now.
I highly recommend it. Yeah, you can actually finish both Cape and Sonohara in the next week.
Excellent. I'm going to definitely get on that. Thank you all for joining us for the Kyou episode of the CLANNAD Book Club podcast. I'm your host, Spidey. It's been a joy. See you next episode, guys. Short hair for the life. What?
Our fortune for this book club is going to end well. Whatever.
That was the worst. I'm leaving that in.